In today's video, we'll go through a powerful and insightful journey on the atheistic worldview versus modern science, including a short stopover on modern lifestyle choices. So let's get started with the atheistic worldview. While most people have grown out of religion in the modern world, it's difficult to believe that some are still hanging on to outdated beliefs and fairy tales. These people fail to observe that technology continues to transform almost every aspect of our lives. Modern air travel allows us to fly anywhere within hours. Cars and road transport continue to evolve at a stunning pace. We're at the verge of commercial space flights and interplanetary expeditions. Advances in medicine have significantly improved healthcare and the quality of our lives. Surgery can now replace knees, hips, almost everything. People don't waste time anymore on praying for the sick. They just take them in for treatment for a mostly speedy and effective recovery. Earlier generations believed that God created the universe and created life. Both of these myths have now been cracked by science. We've discovered that the universe was created 13.8 billion years ago with the Big Bang, or expansion of an infinitely small point called singularity. Similarly, Darwin was able to explain our existence through his work on the origin of species. And finally, all this fuss about morality. The societies are advanced now, people are modern and are free to choose their lifestyles rather than be restricted by moral codes from the ancient ages. The state of modern science. Beginning of the universe. Scientists are still grappling with two big problems of the Big Bang theory: the beginning problem and the problem of impossible odds. The beginning problem. Scientists tell us that the laws of physics begin to fail, that is, they're no longer valid as we get closer to the actual Big Bang or inflection point. And if you go to the moment before the Big Bang, then according to Einstein's theory, there's absolutely nothing. No space, no time, no matter. Let's see what the scientists have to say on the origin of the Big Bang, or what happened before it.
I have no idea, and nobody else on planet Earth has any real idea.
Even the top scientist Stephen Hawking, who was an expert of the singularity concept, had to concede our entire universe started from absolutely nothing.
So, Stephen, everyone wants to know, what was around before the Big Bang?
Nothing was around before the Big Bang.
Oops. Creation of the entire universe out of nothing sounds like a God event, not a scientific one. The scientific community was shocked and stunned at the implications of their research. Physicists scrambled to find logical explanations. Lawrence Krauss wrote a book, A Universe from Nothing, citing the old quantum vacuum and fluctuation concepts, which were obviously not applicable. Not only did this embarrass the scientists, but it was so flawed at a basic logical level that it got a public bashing as well.
Well, no, wait, let's go back a second, okay? Nothing is unstable. What do you mean that nothing is unstable? Nothingness is nothingness.
Well, the physics has changed what we mean by nothing. In fact, nothing is a empty space, is a boiling, bubbling brew of virtual particles popping in and out of existence
wait,
so
no,
fast.
that's not nothing. That's something.
He wasn't off to a great start, but it gets even more interesting.
So you believe there's no God?
I don't even use the word believe. The point is
There is no God.
There's no need for God.
Is there God? Is there God?
It's
what would you
unlikely.
say?
There's no evidence for God.
Okay.
There's no evidence for God.
So let me ask something. If there is no God, okay, if there is no thing called God, if he is nothing, can't something come from him?
He was completely speechless. This was just way too embarrassing. Some physicists rushed back to previously discarded theories of multiple universes and string theory of energy vibrations. While some of these theories are beautiful and very compelling, they will always remain speculative because it's impossible to test them in a zero space-time domain or beyond our observable universe. On to the second problem of the Big Bang, the problem of impossible odds. Scientists had presented the Big Bang as a random cosmic accident, that is, it just happened. But once they zoomed in, they noticed something which didn't look random at all. Let me explain what we're talking about.
From galaxies and stars, down to atoms and subatomic particles, the very structure of our universe is determined by these numbers. These are the fundamental constants and quantities of the universe. Scientists have come to the shocking realization that each of these numbers has been carefully dialed to an astonishingly precise value, a value that falls within an exceedingly narrow, life-permitting range. Consider gravity, for example. If this constant varied by just 1 in 10 to the 60th parts, none of us would exist. To understand how exceedingly narrow this life-permitting range is, imagine a dial divided into 10 to the 60th increments. If the gravitational constant had been out of tune by just one of these infinitesimally small increments, the universe would either have expanded and thinned out so rapidly that no stars could form and life couldn't exist, or it would have collapsed back on itself with the same result: no stars, no planets, and no life.
Odds against the universe existing are so heart-stoppingly astronomical that the notion that it all just happened defies common sense. It would be like tossing a coin and having it come up heads 10 quintillion times in a row. I don't think so. Fred Hoyle, the astronomer who coined the term Big Bang, said that his atheism was greatly shaken by these developments.
And this was just for one Big Bang. If you take the newer theories of multiverse, Big Bangs, and cyclical universes, their intricate complexity makes the impossible odds even more impossible. What is even more weird about these theories is that they avoid a beginning or a starting point. And we all know that according to the infinite regress principle, that defies reality and the very existence of our universe. In a nutshell, the harder the scientists try to disprove God, the more they end up staring in the face of the eternal intelligent designer. Origin of life. As if the origin of the universe fiasco wasn't bad enough, the origin of life camp was facing a similar dilemma. Initially, it looked like the updated Darwin's theory fully explained everything. A few chemicals struck by lightning 3.7 billion years ago, resulting into a self-replicating molecule creating life. This would have been followed by natural selection and random mutation to create the tree of life to the present day. No need for God, case closed. But this narrative hit the wall when DNA was discovered in the nucleus of the smallest living cell, which contained detailed instructions for the creation of every part of plant and animal development. The genetic code of the DNA is very similar to the software we write, except that it's much more complicated. Bill Gates, the founder of Microsoft, the largest software company in the world, recently tweeted, "DNA is more advanced than any software ever created." But it doesn't stop there. They discovered that inside each living cell were highly sophisticated molecular machines for gene replication and other functions, with some of the motor components running at thousands of rotations per minute. There are billions of such machines operating inside all of us as I speak and as you watch this video. Again, the level of deep intelligent design and complexity destroyed the theory of random chemicals being struck by lightning. The base of Darwin's updated tree of life had disappeared. Even if we ignore that for a minute, as you go up the tree, every main branch or new species requires successful random mutation.
If you do the experiments and you analyze how much information is required to get, say, a new protein fold, it's just far beyond what you can get by random mutation and natural selection.
How far beyond? Axe published his findings in the Journal of Molecular Biology. He determined that among all the possible amino acid combinations, the probability of generating just one short protein by mutation is roughly 1 in 10 to the 74th power, or 1 chance in 100 trillion, 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 trillion.
To put that in context, there's only 10 to the 65 atoms in the entire galaxy. So to build a new functional protein by selection and mutation within the time allowed for the Cambrian explosion, what you're essentially having to do is equivalent to a blindfolded man looking throughout the entire galaxy for one marked atom.
In simple language, it's called impossible odds. And we're still talking about a single protein at this stage. So it's not just the base of Darwin's tree, but even the main branches totally collapsed, making the entire theory of evolution meaningless. This is precisely the reason thousands of doctoral scientists have documented and expressed strong skepticism to the theory of evolution. It's no surprise then that in the absence of any scientific explanation for both the origin of the universe and the origin of life, Richard Dawkins, Lawrence Krauss and others were so furious and upset that instead of continuing their research, they went on a mad rampage of mocking and ridiculing faith and religion.
The God of the Old Testament is arguably the most unpleasant character in all fiction. Jealous and proud of it, a petty, unjust, unforgiving control freak, a vindictive, bloodthirsty ethnic cleanser, a misogynistic, homophobic, racist, infanticidal, genocidal, filicidal, pestilential, megalomaniacal, sadomasochistic, capriciously malevolent bully.
So that's what you think of God?
Yeah.
Now you can understand. People will not be cast in hellfire because they didn't get it. On the contrary, they fully understood but were just way too arrogant. Finally, let's get to the evidence part. The biggest objection by the scientists and atheists for believing in God is the lack of evidence. So the big question is, if they saw clear and undeniable supernatural evidence, would they believe? Before we get to the response from the scientists, let's see what the intelligent designer has predicted. He has informed us that they will pass it off as magic and would still refuse to believe. And even if we were to send down angels unto them, and if the dead were to speak to them, and even if we were to assemble before them face to face all the evidence, they would still not believe. Let's compare this with what Richard Dawkins, the top atheist spokesman of the 20th century, says on the subject.
What would persuade you?
Well, I'm starting to think nothing would, which in a way goes against the grain, because I've always paid lip service to the view that a scientist should change his mind when evidence is forthcoming.
Before you get any wrong impressions from this video, it's important to clarify that scientific research is a wonderful journey. This has also been highly encouraged by the intelligent designer. Finally, now that you know that atheism has absolutely no basis in modern science, let me wrap up quickly by addressing a couple of earlier comments from the atheistic worldview. There's absolutely nothing modern about perverted lifestyle choices. Dr. Stephen Collins is excavating the ruins of Sodom and Gomorrah, a nation which was destroyed thousands of years ago for the same perverted lifestyle choices. And with regards to your comment about praying for the sick or for difficult situations, let's not ignore the fact that despite huge advances in medical science, a tiny flu-type virus, COVID-19, has ravaged the world and has killed almost 1 million people. Medical researchers are still struggling to find a vaccine for the last 6 months. You may still want to hang on to your prayers for now while you continue to get your treatment. In this context, Elon Musk is probably smarter and wiser than most modern scientists. This is what he had to say on the safe return of astronauts in the most recent SpaceX mission.
And I'm not very religious, but I prayed for this one.
I hope you enjoyed this video. Until next time, take care.